All right, welcome to Coach Chat. I haven't been on here for a while, but Jacob and I are coming on the podcast today, and we're going to talk about starting up business in the fitness industry, because Jacob and I came from a very similar background. You started face-to-face PT, right?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So we both started face-to-face PT, then built a brand off that, and then opened a gym and started hiring people. So I guess we're going to go over the basics first of where we started and mistakes along the way. There was a lot. But you start first. How did you start?
Well, I was at uni doing nutrition at the time, actually. And I realized long term, I actually didn't want to be a dietitian. So I started doing my certs 3 and 4. And then I was like, at that time that I was doing nutrition, I was actually working as a receptionist / membership consultant for Fitness First. And because I was there a lot, I was able to see a lot of the PTs at the time. And I was like, a lot of them just didn't want to be PTs. So I then went and got qualified and started working on the floor. This is 2014, 10 years. There you go. And at the time, online coaching wasn't really a thing. Powerlifting coaching in terms of like classic or even online wasn't really a thing. So it was very underground still. It's definitely a lot different now, and we can talk about how it's evolved and what goes into that. But I started just basic on the floor doing small group, and literally I'd have to be on the floor all the time to just talk to people and offer things up and put in the hours and then program outside of that. So that's how I started, and just built from, having 10 sessions a week. I peaked out at 67 or 8 or something. And I mean, I'd be honest, the money was great, but I was so burnt out at that point. So I think I've gone from one extreme to another, and I've kind of found my way in the middle now.
Yeah, we actually do have a very similar path. So I started a bit later. I went back to uni. I went overseas, and when I came back, I ended up working for a personal training company where I did my certs. So it was my only office job that I've ever had my whole life, and I absolutely hated it. And I did my certs within that company because I actually I have a teaching degree. So I use that teaching degree to teach the Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. So I actually was teaching the Cert 3 and 4 in fitness before I was even PTing, which goes, I won't comment on any of that. And then I was like, I don't really like this. I don't like working at a desk, even though I work at a desk a lot now, but it's a little bit different when you're working for someone else. So I quit that job and went back to uni to study exercise physiology, and then I was powerlifting myself, and then just started training clients. And I was working in my own home gym, and then also a powerlifting gym here in Brisbane. And I remember at the start, it was a hard slog to get clients. Instagram really wasn't around that much then, and there was no online. So it was pretty much all word of mouth was the way that I was getting clients. And I remember I was charging $60 an hour. And taking a lot of cash. But that's what you could do back then, right? So because I haven't worked in commercial at all, but I would go. I'd never worked mornings because I didn't like it. I always worked afternoons. So I'd go to uni, I'd get all my uni done in the morning, and then I'd be in the gym till 9 o'clock at night and just do the standard 4 till 9 back to back. And I did that while I was at uni. And I remember I always because I'm a numbers person, right? So I'd always be pushing myself to get more sessions, and it was more about numbers, but more about wanting to see my calendar full. That's just my little obsessions. And then I remember, I'll never forget this, because this is what really turned my career around. I had a big slap in the face like 1 week where I lost just out of nowhere. I lost like 16 sessions in 1 week. And I was like, oh, fuck. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
And back then, it wasn't common practice to charge for programming either. Like if someone was getting a PT, the program was kind of like something that you just did complimentary of that. Now it's almost the difference. Now it's the program is what you sell. And the PT or the face-to-face is the additional cost. So it's really flipped on its head.
Yeah. So I remember when I lost that and I got all the way down to like just over 10 sessions, I was like, oh my God, I need to do something. So that's when I actually started marketing myself through Facebook. And at that stage, I was just doing general training, but I was competing, and that kind of opened the door a little bit for me to try and take on more powerlifting clients. Funnily enough, I still have my first ever powerlifting client on my books. So yeah, he's still there. He's still here. And then I just started doing more powerlifting coaching, but I had absolutely no education. I was just learning from people around me. I was actually working under Colin Webb. And I remember I went back to uni to do EP, and I was studying EP. So then I got more into the rehab stuff. So then I ended up rehabbing powerlifting clients. So people's clients would come to me for rehab, and that just grew like organically. Like Instagram came up then. And then I remember and a lot of it was still word of mouth. I had no online, so it was all face-to-face. I was working in my last year of uni. I remember I was doing prac. So I'd start prac at 7 a.m. and then I was running 40 sessions. So I'd finish prac at 3 and I'd go straight to the gym 4 till 9, sometimes 10 p.m. at night. And then all day Saturday, like 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. on Saturday. And I remember I graduated uni, and I remember I graduated. We went to the pub after I had like 3 beers, and then I was in bed for a week. Like I was just so burnt out, but it was worth it, like, and that's just, I loved it. Like I didn't hate it at all. In any way.
And at the time, that was the main option. That's what you did to do that level and to get to the level you're at now.
Yeah.
It's probably very different now, and we can talk about it, but it's like there are some key things I remember during that time that benefited me so much to what I know now. And I think those are key steps that people are missing in their career now, especially early days. One, I had to go onto the gym floor, and I was getting mentoring as well from Ryan, who now runs ICN. He's done sports science and commerce, which is why I went back and did sports science and finished that off. And first part was I needed to go on the floor. I needed to go get 2 leads. You needed to talk to people. You needed to communicate your point of difference. You need to know your values. You need to be a kind person. You need to be welcoming. And I think those are characteristics that are very hard to translate online, very hard in such a big marketplace now. And, I have to go get 2 leads. And then not only that, I have to get those leads in for a free consult. Then I'd have to give them a free tech session and still try and convert them. Then I got to track all the conversions. And it taught you such basic skills of business. And then at the same time, you became a salesperson, really.
It is. It's a sales job. If you're working with people, and it's numbers of people, it's a sales job, and what sells is your ability and your personality.
The other thing is, I think, which doesn't have that pressure to it anymore, whether that's a good or a bad thing, is a lot of PTs jump straight to online. They're not paying rent. And I think that's something that, I don't know, like when we started at Fitness First, rent was like $300 a week. So it was hustle or die. And you didn't have an option. And I think that, especially in where I was in Inaloo here, it bred good PTs. It bred good business people. It bred good coaches long term, because you were forced to adapt. If you don't make $300 in rent, like, you're going to go broke. So you had to make it work. I don't think that pressure really exists as much now. And
Yeah.
the other big thing that I actually credit a lot of my skills that I'd probably use now with the business is uni. And the reason being, I had to manage my own training, my uni timetable, clients, social time. I had to manage all that. My calendar was insanity, but it taught me how to hustle with a good timetable, what I need to prioritize, what I need to put time into.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably, I'm not saying uni is the thing that for everyone or everyone should do uni, but I do think uni, if you do it the right way with guidance, you can become a very good critical thinker. And I think that helps in the long term a lot.
I do agree with that. I do 100% agree with that. I think even though I'm not practicing EP at the moment, it definitely has helped me to be able to manage my time and think about a few things in one go and action them in one go. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good thing. And I mean, also too, like burnout is a bit like a buzzword and stuff. I never, even though we both felt terrible at that time, you know, like I always had in my head that later on I'd be able to not work as hard or to take the foot off the pedal a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think it's also about like understanding your values. Like if your values are balance and, you know, having more time for family or things like that, and you still want to own a fitness, you know, work in fitness or be a coach or something like that, it's just important to continue to acknowledge them. Not everybody wants to work like we did. Not everybody wants to own, you know, a gym and run, you know, as many, you know, 60 sessions a week. I think I topped out at the same amount of sessions as you did. It's pretty hard to fit all them in 1 week. But it's just acknowledging that is your values and then sticking to your values and not conforming to what you're thinking everyone else is doing on Instagram or doing in life just because, you know, we spent so much time on the floor and all that stuff. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean that someone else has to, but then they have to understand that, you know, there's other sacrifices that you make for that, which is, you know, at the end of the day, income.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that period of time, you know, you got to look at early days of your business, you know, what do you envision it to be, and literally just write it out, right? Your steps, where do you want to be? It was something that I learned really early on from my mentor, which is like have a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan. Where's your growth going to come from? Now, things are going to change. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to go back on things, and that's okay. That's all a part of the process. But if you don't have a vision for where your business is going, you're just guessing. And I think that burns people out more because they haven't brought into their own career yet of being a coach. So it was simple things like, okay, well, if I need to make X money, I need to complete X sessions. So that's goal number 1. And X money will then save me X amount so I can do this next thing. And eventually I can change into it. So I viewed, and I think this is something that also gets ignored now, I viewed my early days as a career like an apprenticeship. I realized I'm probably going to be working a lot more for a lot less money right now, but I can establish myself like I'm going to work harder than these other PTs here. That's how I had my mindset back then. Like, no one's going to outwork me in this gym. I'm going to work harder than everyone. So you can do that for so long, but you still need to have a strategy and a vision as to where that's leading you.
Well, the funny thing is from 2018 to just after COVID, I actually got stuck in that. So I hired Tom and we just exploded, and we were working out of another gym. I'm working out of a gym. And then we moved into the Valley, and I hired, like, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made early was hiring people while I was so busy myself. And so we had a bit of a turnover of staff members. And then I remember it was around that 2019, 2020, where that's when I was at my peak of face-to-face sessions. And then I just had another burnout episode, and I was just stuck in this, what do we do? Like, I'm I can't keep trying to run the business and work on the floor as much as I am at the same time. And it was just so frustrating. I felt like I had no way out. And I always would say to myself, oh, this is such a good problem to have though, right? If it was the other way around, it would be harder, but it was so taxing on my body. And then when COVID hit, I actually breathed a sigh of relief because I didn't have as many sessions and I could sit down and think about what we wanted to do. And then in that was when the industry completely changed. With things, and I think myself and Perth were actually very lucky at that time. That's when Steve reached out. And I think we were really lucky at that time because it's taken the business in a completely different direction that wasn't in my head at all at the start, because I was so in the thick of it, but I didn't know what else to do, because at that stage, like, owning a business and running a business doesn't come naturally to me. Like, I'm probably the most comfortable I've ever been right now, but it was very uncomfortable for a really long time because I was really good at running sessions. And I'm not the best powerlifting coach back then. Like, I really needed to put a lot of time and effort into that. But I was really damn good at running sessions and rebooking people and organizing other people to book people. And that was kind of what I was doing. And then, like, when COVID hit, we all had the chance to actually sit. And then I don't think I've actually caught up from that moment when we moved back in here. Like, our systems in the whole business have literally just caught up in the last few months. Whole era. Like, you know what I mean? And on the outside, it looks like things are going great guns. And it's like, yeah, they are, to the point where the back end is struggling so much because we haven't had the chance to actually sit down. And I think
just doing this.
I think it's and I think it's the opposite. And now a lot of coaches, they've got their back end set up. You know what I mean? Like, got all the forms and they've got all this and they've got all that. But it's like, you actually have to work, because in small business, it's okay for not everything to be perfect all the time, because it's not going to be. But, if you're spending time doing all the learning on the back end, but you're not spending time promoting yourself as a coach, you're not going to get anyone through your door.
No. And I think that's the struggle. COVID, we had a very similar situation. Prior to COVID, me and Dee, before opening the gym was kind of very lightly in the pipeline. Like, I knew what it was going to be. I knew where I wanted it. I knew how to look, but I wanted to go traveling first. So COVID hit, that shut Perth really out of the rest of Australia, because we were locked down away from everyone for so long. So at that time, while I didn't have the biggest online presence, and now in reflection, I probably should have pushed that further, but I pushed the community. That's what I did. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna launch on WA. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna take this chance to open the gym, create a point of difference, welcome people back into gyms, because after COVID, they really wanted to get back into the gym. So I'm gonna offer that as a facility that they've never seen before, and it did work. It capitalized a lot, but gym's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but the thing is that you've got to, like what you just said there, in hindsight, you should have pushed online faster. But the thing is, right, you did one thing and you did it really well, right? Yeah. And that's what we did. We did one thing, which was X-Phys, which morphed into powerlifting coaching, and we did it really damn well. So there's no space to do more things. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to do one thing super well, because one of the mistakes not a mistake, but the bigger you get, the harder it is to do more things well.
Yeah. And I think that's where you establish those early trends. Like, now I know the pillars of the business.
Yeah.
And I think back then I thought I knew the pillars, or back in 2019 before COVID, I thought I know where my pillars are going. Yeah. And it's okay to make that mistake. And the pillars do evolve, they change. But in a very similar statement that you made, I probably brought on employees too soon after opening so much. I just spent like so much of my life savings to opening up a facility, I probably wasn't in the best even mindset to be bringing people on at that stage. Even though we were building, we were getting busy, I couldn't take any more clients. I probably had to change that model a little bit early on to create some space for me to think about where I'm going with it.
Yeah, it's the same with that. Same with me. Like, you know, I think staff turnover or hiring people has probably been one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do, because it's really hard to, you don't know someone when you first meet them, even if you think you know them. So it's like, it's really tough to hire people, not necessarily not what I'm going with was good people, but hire the right people. It's really, really hard. And that's something that I think, like, I think there is an increase of coaches who are working for themselves, because working with people in this industry is tough.
Yeah, and you're trying to line up so many things, right? Like we just spoke about how many years it took us to be an apprentice in this career, where we're learning and we're making mistakes, and we're taking it a bit slower.
Yeah.
I think now everyone wants everything a little bit faster, which is absolutely fine, but you got to know you can't misstep sometimes. And I think the two things that I've learned is, one, as an employer, having a very structured model of what the plan would be for an employee to go through and what level of development I think they need. But it's also matching their needs. You know, they might not want to be the head of a certain section of the business, or they might not want to open a gym, or maybe they do. What does that look like? And what pressure do I then put on to make sure they can fulfill that goal? And what's their long-term vision? What's Strength Club's long-term vision? Are they aligning? And then we're talking about, oh, okay, let's go into the niche of powerlifting.
Yeah.
So you're going, all right, just the coaching's here. And now we're going, okay, yeah, we need powerlifting coaches. And it's like this small now. And it's like, okay, that's where now we're going to ask of them to match X, prerequisite. It's very hard. And I think you're definitely going to get people where you're like, they are brought into it and they know it, they can see it, they believe in that, which is great. And it's totally fine if, they have that life cycle where they learn their things and they move on. I think that's actually fine as well. I think it's
that was one of the hard things to learn for me early, was people will come and go. Like, and that's clients too. Like they do.
That's a big one. I was actually going to touch on that in terms of like letting people go. I think people get early days, you think, and it's not a bad reflective practice. I think people go like, oh, am I doing a bad job? Or did I do something wrong? Do I need to work on something? And those are great reflective practices to have. But sometimes it's just the end of a relationship. It's just the end of that person, or they're going to do something else. And you actually were just a step in the next journey, which is actually totally fine.
Exactly.
I've worked a lot on that. It happened a lot. When you're a new PT, it kind of probably swayed a bit. And now I have clients for so long, like I have a large retention, which is fantastic. But then it's like, oh, if someone moves on after 3 years of coaching, it's kind of like, oh, I'm a bit heartbroken now, but I can't be. Like we just had this amazing 3-year thing and we're still friends and it's all good. Like it was all on good terms. It's just, I know. It's time for the next person to come fill those shoes,
Yeah, but the thing is that you got to remember out of that, you got that person, if looking at from a business perspective, they valued your service so much to pay you X amount for 3 years. 3 years is a long time to have a client these days. And, that retention is what keeps the business alive, really. You know what I mean?
I think one of the biggest markers I've made, quite a big staple in my business, is retention rate. And it's early days that help build the business. It's keeping the business now. And I think you need to be very reflective of, if you are having a lot of clients drop off often, it's not the clients. It's not the clients. Like you got to be very reflective on your service and your results and your communication and all those kind of things. What's advice you kind of give to people at the moment in terms of like reviewing that process? Like, do you guys have a step-by-step that you kind of go through?
Retention. We actually, after so like when we moved into this facility here, we split EP and powerlifting coaching. So that was one of the, not mistakes, but we just fell into doing EP and powerlifting coaching at the same time. So Tom was doing it at the same time, and he decided he didn't want to coach anymore. So we had two departments, EP and online. And you know the online boom in 2022, right? So we essentially went from 0 to hundreds of online, and we had lots of new employees. So it was really hard it wasn't quality, it was just setting standards and setting boundaries. So it was because we had such a large influx really quickly, a lot of the coaches got filled up really fast. And I was also new to online coaching at that time. Like, I was still running sessions in 2022. I only got off the floor at the end of 2022. So I've only been doing online coaching for a year and a bit myself. So it was kind of like not the blind leading the blind, but we didn't have the infrastructure put in place. And that's the same thing that we had with the face-to-face, where I was running too many sessions and I didn't know how to get out of it. And I don't think they're mistakes. I think they're
challenges.
The challenges that small business always has with spikes in growth, because it's normal for systems to not be able to catch up, because no one predicted COVID, right? And no one predicted that online was going to be so big after COVID. And then powerlifting became so big at the same time, new federation, that type of stuff. So we actually had we actually struggled with retention in 2023. So 2022 went up significantly. 2023, we leveled out a lot. I remember it was around World's time, and it was because we increased by a lot of online, we decreased by a lot of online. On paper, it looks like a lot, but percentages, it's not. So when we got back, we put a big focus on setting boundaries, retention, and stuff like that. And it actually wasn't received well, because I don't think we explained it well enough to the younger coaches. I think it kind of like people thought kind of like, why are you checking up on me and stuff like that, when in reality it was kind of like we were trying to teach how to assess yourself from a business perspective. Because if you lose a client, doesn't matter or a client leaves, it doesn't matter who you are, they're leaving for a reason. And I didn't believe that the reason that our retention was struggling at that time was the coach's fault. I think we didn't have the infrastructure in place on the back end properly to teach them how to communicate with their athletes, or how to set proper boundaries, how to, have time management skills, and also look after themselves outside. And that is one thing that we really focus on here now in 2024. And lo and behold, our retention is freaking good now. So good. And it's just about setting boundaries that work for people and sticking to them. And then you'll have your retention, and being, consistent. So if I'm consistently working at the same time every day, even as an online coach, my clients like that, because it's predictable, and people like predictability. So I was finding it really hard to juggle everything myself. So the more predictable and consistent I've become in my own life, the more it has shone through at work too. And I think retention in any business always goes up and down, but putting a focus on it has really, really helped us here. And it's not like the focus is like, why did that person leave or whatever. And that's why I think it was misconstrued as. It wasn't about that. It was about understanding and reflecting, and being able to reflect on, why did they leave? Like, what can I do to improve?
There's always something to learn. Yeah.
And the biggest one for me, because the biggest one for me was retention. With my retention was consistency. So being consistent with my language, following up, consistent with my check-in times, and consistent when I'm responding, and that has gone a long way. And setting my boundaries very clearly from the start.
It was very similar. Like 2022, we had such a big spike because the gym had only been like 6 months open, so a lot of people had started coming through. Online, you know, we grew as well because all of a sudden, you know, you started running nationals again. So you're traveling around, you're networking, you're meeting people, which also I think is a massive benefit to how we grew the business, was me actually just interacting with other coaches and businesses like yourself and growing that brand.
Yeah.
And then same thing, it got to Malta in 2023 and it was like, okay, I've set boundaries here and some people probably weren't understanding those boundaries. And I was like, okay, I need to be a bit clearer when I get back. And, you know, you're always going to get a little bit of a drop off around that time as well.
Yeah.
And that happened. But then it's funny how those things work. I reflected on, I was like, you know what, I needed to just be better with my style because I had changed that style. I just need to be better with my previous style. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And then after we got back, you know, I had a few drop off and then it just spiked again. Like people just came on and now it's like that retention, same thing, is kind of gone back to where it was with much better boundaries and time management. And I think that's when you've got employees and you've got a 24/7 gym and just stuff like that, you need to be able to put your eggs into certain baskets at certain times a day and not try and do it all as well. And I think my other segue, I guess, here is the gym facilitated so much for our business growth, but I don't think a lot of people that are online now that have ambitions of opening a gym should necessarily do that because I don't think they're just in the right position now with so much being online. Maybe it will be a point of difference, but I think 3 key things before even opening a gym is like, do you have a community? If you don't have a community in that local area or in that, you know, radius of 5K, you probably shouldn't open a gym because they're expensive, right? And then, you know, how well is your current established business going? Like, is it going good or are you fluxing around every couple of months? Have you got enough capital? Like, if you haven't got enough capital, like, I wouldn't even walk through that door of a bank or anything to go, can I please have X hundreds of thousands of dollars, because things don't go right. You know, COVID could hit tomorrow for any of us again, and we need to be prepared for that.
I think one of the biggest things that I had going for me is I grew within other spaces to the point where we were literally forced out of the space we're in because we were too busy and had to open a gym. So we opened with over 80 members straight up, and it was a very big change with a lot going on, but having that community saved it, because if we didn't, we would have nowhere to go. Like if it was just EPs running sessions and we didn't have a community, we literally we would have no capital at all. So I remember, like, even all the way back to like 2019, people would always ask me, are you opening a gym? I'd be like, nah. Why would I?
I'm taking cash for PT sessions. Why would I open a gym? I was like, the stupidest idea, right?
I know. I was like, why would I? Because at the moment I've got me and 4 EPs running under me, and the rent is so cheap. So we were all just making bank, and kept making bank to the last little while that we could. And you know, I was really, really, really fortunate to be able to be in a space where we could open and I didn't have to worry about money. And
100%. It's very similar to us. Like, you know, and I think you have to be willing to take a hit. You know, if people like, one, people think gyms, especially powerlifting gyms, make money. That's pretty funny. They can definitely make a little bit of money, but it's very hard to then go, okay, I'm going to be a full-time gym owner and go travel and the gym's going to run itself. It doesn't quite work like that. And I think, you know, if people knew how much of a pay hit you probably take at the start, you know, like, you know, 40, 50 PT sessions a week with online programming, that makes you quite a bit of coin. But when you've got to pay, you know, quite a fair bit in overheads to keep the gym lights even on, you take that hit very early on to make sure you can stay alive.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think you and I are both in the same position, like, you know, thinking about in a couple of years' time what we're going to do with the facilities and stuff. And, you know, I won't reveal anything that we've been talking about behind the scenes, but, you know, I think it's just a normal progression. You know what I mean? If you're able to look forward, it's like, especially with gyms or small businesses in general, having that 2-year plan of where you're wanting to go is really vital, because otherwise time just sneaks up on you and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? We gotta
Well, yeah, it's the same thing, you know. It's no secret that people know that I've been trying to look for a new facility for FC, which we're working on.
Yeah.
And at the 3.5 year mark now, and it's a totally different business to what it was when we started, which is kind of refreshing. If I go somewhere new, I'm kind of bringing that new mindset and new outlook with it. But in the same token, you know, to do a new facility is probably going to cost me 50K. That's going to come from somewhere.
50K, that's it. Is that
that's
it?
What I mean, at a minimum, and that's if we can build the walls and do it ourselves. And that's if I'm on, and that's probably the big advice I'd got from a lot of owners over here was, if you can do something yourself, like painting walls and
we did.
You do it yourself. Like, you save money left, right, and center.
Yeah, we renovated this whole place. When we moved in, I had to put 40 grand into the place, and we were here on the weekends painting the walls.
If you're not willing to do that stuff, don't open a gym, and you'll be burnt out for a long time just from doing that on top of your current work.
Yeah, I know. It's, I mean,
Okay, sorry.
I mean, it's like, looking back on it, like, I feel way better now, but looking back on it, it's just, I was just doing what I had to do to keep everything going.
Yeah, and I think, looking back, I am so grateful we did it the way we did, because it just hustled. But I think that's the thing is, me and Dave especially, we already had that hustle culture, you know, like, we were already busting nuts over here, working as hard as we can. So it just kind of evolved into the next thing, and I'm sure it'll evolve again into the next thing when we go to do that. But we're learning as we're going, we're making those mistakes. Yeah, you probably see, I constantly am trying to buy new equipment for the place or sell old equipment, because stuff just doesn't get used, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
When we opened, we had 3 combos. I got 8 now, because it gets that busy. Like, that money's got to come from somewhere. You know, it's a hard thing. What do you think now with people entering online coaching, and everyone's an online coach, everyone's advertising it out? What's your advice for people now kind of entering it compared to us entering on the floor?
I think it's great that the industry has grown enough to be able to have so many coaches in general. I think, though, I think it's like, in terms of the availability of people to coach, I can see it plateauing out at the moment. And I think, unless you're willing to do the hard yards online and still mix online with some type of brand building, so, you know, running seminars or webinars or posting content or going to competitions, if you're really good at talking to people and working to your strengths, I think that I don't think the quality of coaching is poor. I think the quality of coaching, if I'm just talking about Australia, I think the quality of coaching in Australia is fantastic. I think people have all learned off each other, but I don't know whether or not there's going to be the market in it for specifically powerlifting long term. I think, I mean, these are just my thoughts, right? And, you know, people will disagree with my thoughts, and that's okay. My thoughts come from seeing ebbs and flows in business, and my thoughts come from saturation market, and, you know, how many consumers there are in a market that's saturated. So if the coach in general isn't able to get their market international, in terms of more people in the pool, I think we will see struggle happening in terms of financial struggle. I also think online coaches are still well underpaid. I think that the setting the standard for a price point needs to increase by the amount of hours and time and effort coaches put into it. Like, my roster is full and it's a full-time job, you know, and that's on top of what I'm doing. But I've been able to get really efficient at it. So I think that I don't think there's an issue with the amount of coaches, because I think it's a good thing, because I think the number of mediocre coaches has definitely decreased. But I do worry about the saturation or the lack of consumer.
Yep, I agree. And I think one thing that I've kind of brought up, especially locally here, coaches, they're getting really on their content, and I think that's fantastic. We're talking to the guys from the worst at online content, but
hey, you posted last night.
Okay, look at me grow. That was like one of the most detailed posts I've done in a minute, and it got the least amount of likes compared to me posting my dog. So I'm going back to what I was doing. I'm just going to start posting my dog because people like that. But that's also where my brand is at right now. My brand isn't necessarily built on me putting information like that out there, and I've definitely taken a bit of a page out of your book where I post things that are currently happening with me or I'm currently experiencing, rather than generalized technical things. I just find that, and this is probably a point of difference in the market, everyone's posting that. Everyone's posting how to brace, everyone's posting what your knee should be doing, or all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I do think there's a time and place to post those things. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, though. I do think saturating your own feed is probably a double-edged sword there, because you're like, what's your point of difference to the next coach?
Well, yeah, and I also think that's about understanding your market, right? So, like, my market in general for powerlifting clients now are the athletes who want to be the best, but I wasn't always like that. You know, like, it's so that's why I speak to that market on my Instagram, and I speak to coaches who want to learn about that market on my Instagram. I don't think that, like, I would never put up a post about bracing. Like, that's not my specialty. Like, that's not who I am. And I think that's really important. And I think it doesn't matter if you are an online coach or a coach in general with 20 people, or you're a coach in general with 40 people. Understand who your market is and who you're trying to target, and don't try to target everybody, you know, because you won't get everybody. And also, you know, like, I used to really enjoy PT sessions. I used to really enjoy being on the floor. I used to really enjoy working with different types of people. Now I don't. And that's okay, because that means that it's just my career has evolved. And I think it's really important as a business owner and any type of person who is career driven, because if you're not career driven, that's okay. But if you are career driven, just remember that your career is going to evolve, and you're not going to be doing the same thing you were doing 5 years ago. And that's a good thing.
Yes. And I think
going to be
when we're talking about, I think, and it's something probably, like I said, this early day skill of tracking things, where we would track our PT sessions, we'd track conversion, we'd track how many leads we're getting in, we'd track how we got those leads, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I think right now in the online market, people aren't tracking these metrics because they're just posting things and they don't understand where their market is, because they haven't tracked the metric of what market is actually coming to them from what they're posting. So my advice would be if I've got these online coaches coming through is do post your content, might post your bracing content or whatever it is, but you've got to track your metrics on, is that actually bringing people to your doorstep, which is your form? Are they filling in the form? Not only that, are they then jumping on a call and converting after the call? Or are you posting such good content, they get to the call and then they drop off?
Yeah.
Well, something's going wrong with the call. Like, where's the leak in your funnel here? And I think people are missing that process when they discuss content and online, is they're just putting stuff out there, which is fine.
When
but where is it actually going?
Yeah, in reality, it's a funnel. And I mean, like, I don't know about you, but if I didn't have Instagram, if I didn't have work, I probably wouldn't have Instagram. I don't really use it. I don't really scroll. Like I might scroll some reels and throw them over. But that's 5 minutes of my day. And I said that in my post the other week. It's true, because like I view it, for me, it's my sales pitch.
Yeah.
It's my showcase of what I'm doing in my job. So like, I think that's a healthy view of it, and it keeps me from hating social media, because I don't really like it. Like, I don't even use Facebook. I could delete Facebook now and I wouldn't miss it at all.
You don't use those things, right?
Nah. Like, yeah. So I think if like, because there is a lot of like younger coaches that have troubles figuring out content, how to use Instagram or other methods of marketing to fill their books, because they're viewing Instagram is not as a like a whole board of who you are as a coach and what you deliver, because that's what it is, right? Someone will click on your page, and for you, if you click on your page, Jacob Sofianos, you can see that you run a gym, you can see that you've created a community, and you can see that you've got strong people under you. Does that make sense? And people who are interested in joining a gym with a good quality face-to-face or online powerlifting coach in Perth will like that, because you can see straight away what you do. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important, because it's showing who you are as a coach and as a business owner that people can scroll through, and then they pick you based on that plus your results.
And that's you just said it then, results. Like, my results is, I've only, out of everyone I've coached to a world level or international platform now, only one of them had been to a nationals previous to me getting them as a client. So a lot of my guys have been built from the ground up, working with me over years. And that is seen in my branding. Do you know what I mean? I don't necessarily think right now I'm going to get someone that has probably maybe more now, actually, because it's been a few years of doing that. But I don't think early days, when I was still coaching people, I can expect, I'm going to get people from international that are going to sign up for me.
I didn't even think about that either.
It's not going to happen, man. It's going to happen after a very long time. What I did do, which I did very well, was I spoke about the results, and I spoke about how I was getting people results. And the other thing that I think a lot of coaches fall into the trap of is they post the same 2-3 people on everything. It's like, man, you've got probably way bigger of a book than that. Like, let's see what results you're getting with this person from this demographic and this person from this demographic, and how are you mixing that all up rather than just posting the same people all the time. Let's see what you're doing.
What, in the early days, what did you do to build relationships? Because we talked about building relationships before, but what were some things that you would do to get your name out there so people knew who you were in Perth?
A big one was, I guess, because I was so face-to-face, it was walking around, being in the club, being present. Actually, you know what? It's being present. That's the key. You got to be at comps. You've got to be handling people. And sometimes you got to just offer some stuff. E.g., if someone hits me up and they're like, back early days especially, hey, man, I need a handler for this comp. Are you free? Absolutely. You can do that for sure. And I don't think where people start to get misled with that now is it wasn't me necessarily handling that person. It was me being a kind, good human being to that person, that when they spoke to their friend signed on with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
It was the same thing. I give a free tech consult to someone back in the day, and I'm like, let me have a look at it. That's all good.
Yep.
They might not never get coaching. That's cool. But they had such a good experience with me, and I did everything I needed to do, that they talked to the next friend at a coffee, and they're like, oh, actually, I know this powerlifting coach up in Perth. He's actually all right. Like, maybe you should hit him up. And those are the people that signed up. I had one person, I remember I had a tech session with one person once, and they didn't sign on, which was absolutely fine. I saw them around the gym a few more times, and we were like, have a little laugh or a yarn or whatever it is. And then their partner ended up signing on.
Yeah.
And then their partner ended up referring me to more people. And then those two people end up referring me to more people. So from the one person that never actually signed on with me, I gained 6 to 7 more clients. And I think that was something that, where we're talking about consistency with how you deliver your product. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And not thinking everything is, it might look like a wasted opportunity, but it probably isn't. You should just take opportunities and put yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. Very similar. Like I used to run, I remember I used to run a boot camp in my backyard for women for $10 a head. And then that grew, because it was like 6 or 7 of them, that grew into them seeing me face to face. And then they brought their friends face to face. And then it was like, you got to see Kelly. She's a really good PT. And it was just kind of like that. You know what I mean? Because it was like, and then I'd always give away first session free. The first session was free. And then they'd come back, like stuff like that. And then I remember the very first year, Tom and I started at Valhalla. We ran a series, Don't Do It With Your L5, and it was like a low back seminar, and we charged literally $20 a head, which was a lot of money in 2017. And it really helped, because then we did it all at a few different gyms, and it was a lot of that's Instagram was in then, and it was a lot of talking really late. Like we were burnt, but it really kicked everything off. And I think for Tom, it's been great because he's so good at fixing people, then people send people, and then stuff like that. And it helps him too, because it's taught him that doing this is what helps him grow his brand. And they're still doing the Muscle Monthly Management webinar, and it's free.
That's it.
Like it's free, and those are the things that really kick you off if you're willing to put the yards in to getting it and to doing it. So then later on you can sit back and not do it,
I do think having some form of face-to-face consultation, whether that's via Zoom or something, can go a very, very long way. But I do think, on the other hand, you need to be able to keep those up once you have the client. You can't just talk via messages or voice notes all the time, because some people just don't work like that. And one quote that's always kind of resonated a bit with me is, coach the person, not necessarily the problem. So, everyone is a human, so you've got to treat them like humans. They're not robots. They're so when you're talking about how to reach people, if your reach is looking robotic, you're coaching problems and not people. And
that's one of the mistakes that I made, and one of the realizations that I needed to be a powerlifting coach and not an EP, because what was happening was I was trying to solve problems with body parts while making people strong, and I ended up not being great at both. And a couple of clients slipped through the cracks because I wasn't able to solve the problem and I wasn't able to make them strong. And that I reflected on why those couple of clients left. And then I was like, oh God, no, I need to just be a powerlifting coach.
I remember that part of when you were doing that. Yeah.
Because I was not coaching, but I was not EPing. I was kind of just, and everyone's getting frustrated.
Yeah. And I think it's when you're coaching the person, you're going to solve that problem, and you're going to look at it from their point of view and have more empathy with it, because it's not just as easy as going, just flatten out your back more. I don't know, or just keep your ribs up. Keep your ribs up. Like, that doesn't mean things like people or going super technical and stuff. Like some people that's really great for them, and they like that and they enjoy that as a hobby. Example, I know when we were coaching together, it's like I would ask you something and you'd explain it. But if that was going to go to a novice lifter or someone who maybe wasn't a full-time coach, it would just go over their head. So
well, that's why I know my niche market now. And that's
Yeah.
why I said that I wouldn't post about bracing, because I know how to teach it, but not to a level of anyone below intermediate. And that's okay. Do you know what I mean? And that's okay, because I know where my strengths lie. But in saying that, I did a lot of years with a lot of people who didn't know how to squat.
I think that's the other thing, is that, so online it's so hard to get bodies. Do you know what I mean? Like if I had to add up the total amount of bodies I've had to work with over the last 10 years, far out. That is insanity.
Yeah.
And that's just from doing, those tech consults or running small group or, giving things out. I think that's a bit of a hard thing to do online. How do you think people can probably reach that audience to make sure they are experimenting with different bodies or trialing different things?
I think you can do it online. It's just you need to know how to communicate to see what you want to see. So it's about the communication in terms of knowing what angles of the video you need to see, being able to explain properly what you're working on with your client without getting stuck in the weeds. And if you are close to them, if they're in the same city as you, there's no harm in saying, hey, let's go to the gym together and have a look. If they're not, it is a harder process. But then if there's injury involved, that's when I refer, because I didn't go online. I remember Tom was doing online before me. I refused to even do Zoom sessions, because I was like, I'm not doing this until I know I'm 100% okay with being able to see what I can see. And I remember that distinctly, because that was the era just before COVID when Tom started doing online coaching and Zoom sessions. So we set up the business where they would you started on that too, where you get online coach plus a Zoom session. So we didn't do cut and dry, and those Zoom sessions helped me to then be a better online coach. But that took me over a good year to figure that out. And because I didn't want to jump straight into it, because I knew that I was good face to face. So I didn't do that. And then after that, that's when I really doubled down on programming. So I wasn't trying to do it all in one go. You know what I mean? You can still build a client base with being really good at something and not that great at something else. So I knew I'm really good at communication. I'm really good at talking face to face. I wasn't so good at it online. And that's why one of the reasons why my retention rate was struggling when I very first started online, because I needed to figure out how I communicate better, and just little things like I don't work on my phone, I work on my computer. That helps me because I like to type more. I've got fat fingers and I can't type. But I think all of that is not having a black and white view. You don't have to just be an online coach. Why don't you be an online coach and then have 5 people that are really hard to coach that you might coach in your town that you see face to face? And then, the barriers are, okay, you might need to pay a little bit of rent. Okay, you might need to build a little bit more online. You can see them in the park. Like you can do body weight squats in the park. You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff, and thinking outside of the box.
That's also offering that level of service, right? Where now your point of difference is, oh, my coach actually gives a shit. They actually do care. They are invested in my journey.
My coach will see me face to face, and like I still do that. I'm like, if I can't get a result, and if it's got the injury, I'll refer it to the boys. And a lot of the times I'll sit in on the session. But also, if I can't get a result, I'll be like, right, we need to do a Zoom session.
Yeah, and it's the same here. If I've got someone online where I'm like, all right, man, we just need to check up, or I have clients in Canada. It's like, all right, we'll line up this time. We got to, because I got to explain this. It's not clicking, which is fine. It's actually okay. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing is people are, when you're a novice, if you're advertising out to novice or beginner or local level lifters, you have to remember as well, they're probably not going to be used to getting coached online. They're not going to have the skills.
I tried to
know what to do.
I tried to be an online client once. I hate it. I can't do it because
I hate coaching as well.
I can't be the online client. I'm shit at it. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Hate making videos. I hate talking. Like
I hate it as well. You know what I was like. I hate it.
I'm not very good. Like, I don't do general chit chat like on Messenger or anything. Like, I just don't. We might send a few memes back and forth. That's about it. So I go and see a PT 3 days a week. Because I like to be coached face to face. So there is still that face to face market out there. There's still people out there that prefer face to face. Just got to get it.
I think the other thing is everyone wants national, international level clients, which is fantastic. Great goal to have. But 90% of your market plus is going to be beginner or local level lifters.
Yeah.
And if there's a coach in their local vicinity who can see them maybe in person or check up on them or go get a coffee or is in the same time zone, that's probably going to be more convenient for that person because they've never done online. They don't know how to communicate and they want results now. At the end of the day, that's what they're looking. They're paying you for a result. So I think if I was to give some advice for early online coaches coming in the industry, I'd get involved with your local powerlifting community at a lot deeper of a level.
Yeah.
And I would be involved at a commercial club on a deeper level just because commercial clubs have 2,000 people and every commercial club now has a half rack or 20 of them. And guess what? There's plenty of people on half racks that don't know what they're doing. So if you're struggling to build a business online and you feel like you're spinning your wheels, I would say stop building a business online for a bit and go build up your skills and your community and how to coach and where that market for you to then build national, international athletes. Go build them. Don't try and find them. Go build them with them. Yep.
Yeah.
Go build them.
Anyway, I think that'll do us. We've been going for over an hour.
Perfect.
We know how to ramble, eh?
We do, eh? What are we going to talk about now? This new office in the background of Football Motion. Wow, look at that place. It's sky view. I thought the gym doesn't make any money. Nah, all good, mate. Thank you for having me on.
No worries. I'll chat with you soon, mate.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know how to do it.
Still recording.
Manage recording. Stop recording. Stop recording.